I hope you love some theater because you are listening to Keith Price's Curtain Call. This is Keith Price, and we are here on the Curtain Call, having another edition, podcast fabulousness, as they say in the world of the biz of radio conversations now, because everything is off the radio and into a podcast. And I am very, very excited because, again, you know, I do love a dashing leading man. See, I didn't tell him. I was going to go right there, right off the top.
Do you mean like I'm running away?
He will before this interview's over. Oh my God. Well, I am talking to one of the stars of the most recent opening show that's happened on Broadway, Bright Star. And I'm talking to Paul Alexander Nolan. Is that right? Yes,
that's
it is.
right. Yeah.
Paul Alexander Nolan, who is playing one of the many love interests, it seems, of Miss Cusack on the stage, at least the one that broke her heart the most. I'm getting choked up right now. I was trying to hold it together because this show, y'all, you know, again, if you're making your plans to come to New York City to see a show, see something that is, you know, again, something different. I was very excited that something different is happening on Broadway. Bright Star is it, and it's the show that everyone's talking about because it's the music written by Edie Brickell and Steve Martin, which is a pairing that I never thought would happen. And Paul Alexander Nolan he's breaking hearts in this show, people. I just have to tell you now, he's going to break your heart before the end of the first act. And, you know, you'll love him afterwards, but it's going to take a minute. I'm sorry. I get a little caught up in this stuff. It's very real to me, Paul. No, Paul, how are you?
I'm great.
I love it. This is, again, so here you are, Paul Alexander Nolan. You're making this Broadway splash in this show that when you put it down on paper, when you say it's a musical, but it's bluegrass. Okay. Mm-hmm. We've got rap down the street. Mm-hmm. We've got the Latin influences on one thing. We've got the Jewish energy coming from Fiddler on the Roof. Why not have bluegrass on Broadway? Right?
Well, that's right. I mean, yeah, obviously it's not something that we hear a lot in the Broadway theater. So,
no.
And it's not straight up bluegrass necessarily. It's bluegrass roots, and they take some liberties from there.
Yeah, but again, a format that you don't get to have the opportunity to think that you'd hear on Broadway, and
yeah,
I love that. I love it. Oh my God,
me too. It's an opportunity for such joyful music.
So, tell me about your character in Bright Star.
Okay, where shall I start?
Where should you start?
I played Jimmy Ray Dobbs, and as you pointed out, I'm the love interest of Alice Murphy, played by Carmen Cusack. And
who, by the way, everything. She is everything.
Right?
Oh my God.
Right?
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I didn't no, we have to give it up to some of the members in your cast because I talk about as you were a surprise for me, so was she. I can only imagine. This show is great. I'm sorry. Just go ahead. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I spend half of my interviews praising her because, when I auditioned for three times, and the last one Carmen came in and read with me because she was already cast, and so they wanted to get an idea of how the potential Jimmy Rays, dealt with her, acted with her, listened to her, and all of that, and I left that audition thinking I have to do this because I have to work across from her and play with that.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it is really just beautiful. But your character, is the love interest, and it's a very interesting story because again, it's one of those pieces where we dash from what is the present day of that particular piece to the past, and there's a lot of back and forth with that. That is really kind of interesting because it took me a second with Carmen's character to realize that, oh, look at her. She's playing young and old. Get her. And singing old and lived and then young and fresh. She's like having the moment. And there you are right by her side matching that. That's pretty groovy. Honestly, I mean, it's a delight for someone who likes the theater as much as I do. And I think people who come to see shows like this, it's sort of like it really feels as if you're in this wonderful story that has a lot of emotional turns, because I can't give anything away. But it has some really interesting emotional turns, and it was such a fun, uplifting moment. By the time we get to the end of the story, you feel so lifted. Is that like what it feels like for you every day doing that show? Because
absolutely. I mean, any character you play, you go on that quest with them. And notice how I avoided the word journey since it's overused. You live in that person's body and the shell of what they go through. So, when you play characters that don't have redemption at the end or don't get what they want in the end, that's really hard to shake. So when you are working on something that you do get what you want in the end, it's much easier to leave the theater without feeling, suicidal. So yes, it absolutely, because of where we end up, it's a much easier night. Had it not gone that way, much harder, very dark place to leave. So
yes, that first act. That's all I'm saying. All I'm going to say.
Well, what's really cool about our show is that, not a lot of people even know this. It is based on a true event.
Exactly.
So Edie and Steve so smartly built the story around this true event. And, I do think they have started talking about that event in the press, but most press is avoiding it. It leaves it very vague because it's hard to discuss the show and what it's really about. But
I think the most important thing about the show that I hope people got, at least that's one of the things I walked away with, is it's about, doing the right thing and being true to yourself, period. I mean, and in a weird way, that's kind of like every good story you should have that kind of feeling. I mean, you guys, it is a beautiful story that, like I said, the twists and turns are very intense, but at the same time, it's sort of like, it's such a wonderful experience moving through the story. And there's such wonderful asides with the character that plays, I don't want to give it away now, but he's a mystery character to most people. His past is a mystery, but his life in front of you is so wonderful. And, and the people that are in that playing in that place, like Jeff Blumenkrantz and those folks in that mix are giving a wonderful, they're adding a lot of lightness to the show. And so for you, it's sort of like you are part of, I mean, you have the leading man, because I don't want to be that person. But yes, you have the leading man looks, you have all of the charm that goes with that. And yet the best part about it is that it's so not on that stuff is the surface, but what your character goes through by that song that he sings in the opening of that second act. It was just like, yeah. This man is going through some stuff, yo. He is acting, God damn it.
Yeah.
How great is that, though?
It's great. It's always the most fun people to play that start in one place and end in a very different place. That for me, I've played a lot of characters like that get that big old arc, and
like Jesus Christ,
Jesus Christ. Yeah, actually, he's one of the least good examples of it. But for me, of the 5 shows I've done in New York and the 4 on Broadway, you take Guy in Once,
right?
Who it's a perfect hero's quest, the hero's journey. Then that he starts having given up on life, and this person comes into his life and takes him through different challenges, and he ends up completing those challenges. And though at the end of Once, it's a little bittersweet, but it's so joyful,
right.
And he has been healed. Then Dr. Zhivago, the person I played in that, started as an idealist and a good person, and ended up the opposite of good. This sociopathic, psychotic killer. Isn't it fun what we do?
This is great.
And then Jimmy Ray, it really is fun to play Jimmy Ray as a young person before any kind of bad things happen to his life, because he's full of joy, he's full of optimism and hope, and and fun, and he feels invincible.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he is not invincible, and how that changes who he is and how he behaves in the world is kind of so tragic and beautiful at the same time. It's very human. Our show, I would say, is a very human show. About forgiveness and redemption, and of course, most of the show to me feels joyful, though we don't know how we're going to dig ourselves out of some of the tragedy.
Well, and I think that's where some of that true to yourself energy kind of happens in terms of a lesson to be learned, because Carmen Cusack's character, she starts off having that really, we get how smart she is, we get how driven she is, and she's one of those women that's in a time where that's not a way to be, and she somehow pushes through in spite of everything that happens to her character. She still manages to push through, and it's interesting because your character has all of that same brightness going into it, and then it's the way that he handled the dark turn that was different. And then when he figures out that moment that changes him again, because he's got like two sets of moments that changes him, but that second one that turns him around in a different way, it's sort of just like, you had to fight. Your original exuberant young character had to fight to get back to that place where he was, once he decided what he was going to do. Yes. It was really interesting to see him move like that. It's
interesting.
It's a swift move, you know?
Yeah.
But, what do I know? I'm just watching the show.
What do I know? I'm just doing it.
You're just doing it. He's finding his way through. I passed through once and I think I know everything about Bright Star. That's happening at the Court Theater here in New York, 8 shows a week. And I'm sitting here with Paul Alexander Nolan. And, how is it being a leading man on Broadway?
Well,
what's that like? What's that? It seems so rarefied for the us normal mere mortals.
Well, my perception of myself is likely different than most people's perception of me and who I am and what I think of I actually, for me, I was just talking about this yesterday. I don't feel like a leading man. I don't mean that I don't feel like I can lead a company. I do. I do know. I think I have good leadership in the theater. But what I mean is that I tend to be more comfortable in playing parts that are a little more quirky, a little more damaged, a little more funny, a little where the rules aren't so strict. And I think that's why I like Jimmy Ray. He's not just a pretty guy. He's whip sharp, very smart, playful, hopeful, confident, and and then of course when we have our big turning point, it changes him into a fairly different person, and so that really is what's interesting to me in the relationship with how he deals with that. So I would say that how do I perceive myself as a leading man? I think there are many. When I think of leading man, I think of the old school kind of looks and behavior and just that thing. And maybe I do it and don't know, but it's hard for me to actually own that. I think.
All right.
I think of guys like George Clooney or but I guess I can do that and then do the weird people too. So. And I love the weird people. They have no rules.
They have no rules. But I think the best part is that you have enough wherewithal to recognize that a lot of that energy is mostly facade energy that people are putting out there. Because again, walking through the streets of New York, except he was totally giving you like Newsies realness with the scarf and the wonderfully put hat. So it's sort of like he could have been a Newsies person at that point with that scarf you had going on, but very distinguished and very dapper. So I would see you walking through the street and get dapperness.
Okay.
But I think the leading man energy, I probably would. It would only until after I talk to you that I'd be thinking, I wonder if there's more leading man energy than just swagger. He's just giving you swagger, Paul Alexander Nolan, swagger. But again, having a wonderful star turn in Bright Star here on Broadway. Where are you from originally?
I grew up on a farm, a grain farm in Saskatchewan, Canada.
He's Canadian.
Yes. The
That's
big secret.
why you're so nice.
Am I nice?
You totally nice. I totally got that.
Do most
right away.
people treat you badly when they come in here and do your podcast?
No, luckily, because the people that do come are people that I really invite. And if they're not invited personally by me, they come recommended highly by people that I respected and think a lot of too. So, like I don't know you. I did see you in a few things, but at the same time, I'm not surprised that you're working with the person that you work with as far as your PR is concerned, because she tends to draw those kinds of energies toward her. And so,
well, she's been great. She, I've known her for 5 years since we did Superstar, and it's the first time I've worked with her. And but I like people around me who believe in me and who approach me, because I need to know that someone sees something that they like. Of course, we're artists. Not everyone likes what you have. Not everybody likes that painting by that artist.
Yeah.
Even if it's famous, and I think performance is the same way. Sometimes you're not at someone's flavor. So I think it's important that you have a team that really believes in you, because they're the ones that'll go to bat for you and serve that artistic power with passion.
Yeah.
So that's why Lisa Goldberg is my PR person.
Oh, see, we were trying to keep it on the QT because
do we need to?
No, because she gets a little shot when we talk like this
does
about
she?
just a little bit. But you had this Canadian lifestyle on a farm, and now you're part of the Broadway fabulousness. When you look back at that journey, because you're 5 shows deep now into your career, four on Broadway, right?
4 on Broadway, yeah.
Right. So you're now in the mix that's completely different from when you were living on the farm. Were you on the farm dreaming of this life then?
Is that me?
No, I think that was me.
God,
I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. I just thought I rarely have my phone on, so but we should make prank calls while we're on.
No, because that's rude. That's rude.
And they can tell who's calling now.
I know, right?
It's not like when we were 10.
Do you have Prince Albert in a can? Your refrigerator running?
Yeah, that's right.
No, but your life on the farm compared to what you're doing now. I mean, is this what you saw when you were, lifting that hail?
I guess, when you dream of something to do with your life, you tend to dream the biggest that it can be. And there's no question New York is the place where everybody thinks that they would like to end up if they're a theater actor.
Right.
And how do you get to do that? I, of course, had no idea. The only reason I was introduced to the theater is because my parents noticed I could sing, and singing led to acting, and acting led to musicals. And I, eventually left the farm and moved to Ontario, to Toronto, and had a career in Toronto, and then the Stratford Festival in Stratford, Ontario. And one by one, you pick up, different building blocks, and here you are. I mean, it's, how does it happen? I guess a bit of luck as well, a lot of hard work. And, when I was at the Stratford Festival, I was there for 6 seasons, and I was never unhappy being there. I didn't think, I have to make it to New York. It just basically, after some time, something led to me being here, and then one thing built on that and led to another, and here I am, 4 Broadway shows deep, and loving being here and loving the potential. I'm really curious about the potential of musical theater. So I still, every time I start a new project in the musical theater, I think, what is this? I don't know what musical theater is, because it can be completely elusive. And so I feel like I start again every time I begin a new project.
Well, I mean, this is a great thing though. And it's nice to see that the projects that you've just listed, between Dr. Zhivago and Jesus Christ Superstar and now This Bright Star, it's like I think of those three characters alone, and they're just all over the place. You know what I mean? Like emotionally, they're all over the place. Vocally, they're all over the place. Like you have clearly a natural talent, which is what you said your parents found, and somehow by having that support system of people looking at you and knowing that that's something that they should at least offer. I mean, your parents were pretty smart in that.
Well, yeah. I mean,
do you have brothers and sisters?
I do. I have 4 siblings, 4 sisters.
Do they sing?
Not really. No. One of my sisters is a professional dancer and now teaches dance and owns a studio in Canada. But I have to say my father was instrumental in encouraging the arts, which is kind of contradictory to his practicalism, because he's also a very practical person, being a farmer and a fairly conservative person. But he introduced me to musical theater, to opera, to classical music. He listened to all of that stuff.
Wow.
And that rubbed off on me.
Wow.
And and I think my mother's side of the family was fairly musical. My grandfather played violin and mouth organ, aka harmonica, but he called it the mouth organ, so that's what I call it. So here I am with this kind of natural singing talent, and one thing led to another.
Yeah. Well, that's the story. That's, again, someone sitting here now listening to this, if they're listening, randomly on the farm, because the podcasts and all of the way that we consume anything now, it's so personal. You can have it with you wherever you are. Sitting there now thinking, I wish I had X, Y, and Z to make the plans to dream big enough to come to New York. And you're someone who is a living example of that. So again, we never know who's going to get touched by anything that we do, especially as artists. I know you, again, like me telling you how I felt after the end of the first act. I'm sure it's kind of common, but it's an experience of, if you're, sharing your talent. And that is a changing moment for both, at least it is for me. And then again, someone sitting here listening to this now could be having that same changing moment just from your story.
They can, and
it's crazy.
And the crazy thing is you can have your sights set on an end result, but really, I think what is a better and more healthy way to go about yourself as an artist is to know why you're doing it. Is it because you have to work on Broadway? And if that's the answer, then you know your why, and you probably won't be happy unless you're working on Broadway. But for me, eventually, when the penny dropped, it was really about exploring what acting can be and how to accomplish what's required of different styles, of different genres, of different characters. And that is, for me, a healthier way to move forward. The place you do it will fall into place, I think. But, also, you don't have control of who notices your gifts and who doesn't. I could have very well have just not been noticed by the right people. I have to give a lot of credit to Des McAnuff, who really took me in Stratford. I was in the Stratford company for 2 seasons, and Des recognized something and some potential and gave me opportunities that helped me develop. And among a lot of other folks there, the coaching staff there, and the Birmingham Conservatory for Classical Theater, these all were building blocks of my toolbox, as I put it, and all of that helped me understand who I was as an actor and how I wanted to move forward. And, the place that I'm doing it now, which is New York City, Broadway, is really is secondary to why I do it. But it's certainly an amazing place to work because there's just so much opportunity and so much innovation, and I love that.
Well, you're living the dream right now. Again, that's one of the things that I love about this particular platform that I get to work on, and that is getting to talk to people that are working as professionals in what they do, but also being professionals in your dreams. Because this is clearly something, once you got on the path of doing for yourself, you are now living. I mean, you're taking care of yourself as a leading man in a Broadway show.
Yeah.
Come on.
Right?
That's like, wow. And it's just Thursday. You know what I mean? Or it's a Friday. Look at this. This is what I'm doing. I mean, how fabulous for you. So congratulations for that.
Thank you.
I mean, I think that it's really great. And again, for me, the pleasure is having just to be able to have the conversation with you about what you're doing. Because what you're doing is things that, you know, on some level, I'm not going to lie and say I wish I was doing, because I wish I was on Broadway too. But that's not where my destiny is at this particular juncture in time. But being close enough to understand what goes into it and seeing people working very hard at it and making it look easy. Because, you kind of make it look easy. I ain't going to lie.
Well, that's good, because, you know, no one wants to see someone work hard when they're coming to be entertained.
Exactly.
So, you know, you don't see the hours that actually go, that the artist shows up before the performance or is at the gym before the performance. Right. You know, all of that stuff is to serve the performance and to, you know, ultimately serve the story, because we're storytellers. Yeah. So whatever I can do to contribute to that, whether it's I stay healthy so I can actually do my job, or to, you know, for Bright Star, I actually started going to the gym and hitting the weights because I wanted to feel stronger and look a little bit stronger, and, you know, it was recommended by Walter Bobby, our director. Yep. And I was like, hell yeah, I'll do that.
And Walter Bobby, hello, you know,
right,
still looking good. Danny Zuko, how you doing? Come on.
He's a good looking man.
What?
Yeah.
So it's all good.
Yeah.
So it's great. So again, if you are coming to New York City and you need a musical theater experience, Bright Star is going to be one of those that if you get the chance to see it, you're going to think to yourself, wow, that was another piece of different on Broadway. I mean, if you're lucky enough to make your tour, because that's the thing that I always tell people if they're coming, you book lots of shows that you can try to get to see and see as many different things as you can. This is going to be one of those ones that they'll be walking away going, I didn't expect it to be that good. They said bluegrass. I didn't know it could be so deep. It's great. So again, anytime you have anything you got going on, Mr. Nolan, please stop by and talk to me about it, because I like you and you come highly recommended with good, you know, we hang out with the best people. It's so great. So
well, I'd be glad to come by.
Come back, and go to your website again, paulalexandernolan.com. No.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Because you notice I don't have any paper in front of me.
I know, I'm impressed. I'm impressed.
But yeah. So go check him out and see him when he's giving that Jesus drag, because he's giving you this fierce long hair and then the flowing white gown.
It's like a decade ago now.
I know, right?
Feels like forever.
But it was a great production. So anytime you can have something, come back. And we will be back.